It's just a cock, yeah. It's not like
it's like the realest. They've never put more detail into anything in Pixar studios.
It's not like in Transformers 2 when the giant robot testicles were hanging down. I'm right under enemy scrotum. Good line. That's a good line.
So you imagine it as a human dick? Because I always imagined
Lightning
it
McQueen's
had
dick?
more of a horse dick.
I imagine it like
That's closer to a human dick than a car dick would be.
I think like a grown man's penis, 5.5, 6 inches off, coming off the bottom of Lightning McQueen.
Just like a normal,
but the top of it is completely skinned and charred because it's just dragging along the road the whole time.
It's nightmarish.
Along the speedway, just completely.
I'm a little unclear what we're talking about right now.
Talking about Lightning McQueen's penis. You get to see it in Cars 3.
It looks like it looks like the bad guy at the end of Sunshine. Have you ever seen that? Fuck.
It was a ballsy move on Pixar.
He's just a walking scar.
I've not seen Sunshine.
So we're talking
I have
about
to see it.
Check it out. Pretty good.
Very good.
It's a pretty good movie.
But we're talking about video games and movies.
Welcome to the G Club.
The G Club.
Were we recording this?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's always like a little lead in.
Thanks, Ryan.
Shut up, Barry.
We're gonna talk about video game movies today, and we got a couple new voices, several new voices today.
voices?
So I want to go around and introduce ourselves real quick.
Barry Kramer. That's you.
Clockwise or counterclockwise?
We'll go clockwise. I'll start. I'm Barry.
So
I've been on every G Club. So I'm back again. Ryan, what's up?
Damn, Ryan, if we're bragging, this is my third G Club. I'm Ryan McGee from Super Mega, which leads us into the next introduction.
I am Matt Watson, also from Super Mega and GameGrumps. So yeah. Who's next? Who are these new faces?
Hi, I'm a new face and voice. My name's Tyler Hutchison.
What's up, Tyler?
Hey.
Not Hutchinson?
Hutchison.
It's Hutchison.
Hi, Tyler J. Hutchison.
Okay.
I directed a video game called Dream Daddy.
Never heard of it.
A dad dating simulator.
Oh, now I've heard of it.
That's on iOS, right?
No. That's on Steam and Mac OS X. You can check it out.
Nice.
And I draw comic books.
They're good. I've seen them. He does draw good comic books.
Check them out. One of them's called Die Homer.
As in Die Hard, right?
Similar, but
It's Die Hard, but with Homer Simpson.
with Homer. Yeah.
Right. Original story.
Original story. Original character. Do not steal.
Right.
Hello, I'm Jory. I also worked on Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator.
Yeah. These guys are are in the office now, and they're real fun fellas.
And we're all nerds.
They're actually working on the next 6 Dream Daddy games.
Yeah, we're doing the Peter Jackson thing and making them all simultaneously.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't have any skin left on my fingers, by the way.
They're also working on all the 20 DLC packs for
Here's the thing.
$5 each, right? DLC packs?
Sure. Look, we've been running a lot of tests with mocap technology for these new games, and it looks good.
And there's a neural network that's writing the entire script. So,
We're just generating the entire script with a machine learning algorithm.
Wow, that's very exciting. But that's not what you're here to talk about.
That's not true. That's not true.
We are going to talk
the Dream Daddy movie.
We are talking about video games, though.
Yeah, it's a segue of sorts. So, video game movies. Let me get the vibe of the room. What do you guys think about video game movies?
Mostly, I haven't seen a one that actually I'm like, wow, that was a really good movie. I enjoyed myself watching it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen one video game movie where I've actually enjoyed the experience, except for it's so bad it's good type of way.
Yeah.
Ironically, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marginal.
Yeah.
I'd say video game movies tend to be marginal. That doesn't mean there's not good ones out there, but I think overall, the general taste it leaves in your mouth after seeing one is
marginal.
Margarine.
It's like disappointment and boredom.
Yeah.
It's just like why? It's like, of course, like I expected it to be this way. Unfortunately, it's this way. Why does it have to be this way? It's like those consecutive thoughts. Very depressing.
I kind of disagree a little bit with you, Ryan, in that I agree. I've never seen a good video game movie, but I've always enjoyed myself.
You've always enjoyed yourself.
Always enjoyed.
Have you seen Assassin's Creed?
I have seen.
Did you watch Assassin's
Creed.
How did you enjoy that film?
Well, I saw it in theaters with my father.
Same here, actually. Yeah.
He loved it.
I think my dad enjoyed
Was he previously
himself.
familiar with the franchise?
Not at all.
Okay.
I really enjoyed watching Assassin's Creed. But here's the thing. Sometimes I like watching a train wreck, and that's what a lot of video game movies are.
But sometimes it's so disastrous that it just has this gut-wrenching feeling. Like if you were to see a train wreck and then you saw the bodies lying next to the train, I get the feeling of seeing the bodies next to the train.
I don't see the bodies next to the train when I watch a video game movie, because I think I've been around the block enough times to just know, like, no expectations.
That creates a monotonous feeling for me. Like I want to have fun with it, but it just gets too monotonous at a point where it's like, okay, this is gonna happen. I can't really derive any enjoyment from something as like predictable as they are, because they're not willing to take any risks with their IP. Which is unfortunate.
I agree with that for the most part, and like I think it's an interesting issue when like video game movies try to be too reverent to the game they're based on. But I've seen some bonkers fucking video game movies.
Uwe Boll?
Like the Uwe Boll ones, of course. And
Love
then,
Uwe Boll. Love him.
Like, have you seen the Max Payne movie?
No.
It's
Are you talking about with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Where they put like demons and shit.
Yeah, it's all full of demons
and they
and
fly
angels.
through a
Constantine?
window.
I didn't know they made one.
It actually kind of is reminiscent of some of the imagery from Constantine, except
Weird.
like they do it all as like a visual metaphor to like the drug that the story is based around. But you end up
Like
watching
a Dread kind of situation?
I haven't seen Dread.
Oh,
Dread's
you haven't seen-
so good.
Dread's real good.
Wait, which one are you
But
talking
it's
about?
got like a drug in the
Both.
story that like is constantly throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, and so like you expect the movie to be like fucking John Woo action like the game was, and instead it's all like he's like fighting demons and like he gets
So-
angel wings
And it's Mark
shit.
Wahlberg.
And it's
which
Mark
is not
Wahlberg.
Max
Marky
Payne.
Mark.
Marky Mark.
He's like the most non-Max Payne Max Payne I've seen.
Well, so you mentioned John Woo, and I think it's interesting because so many, especially action movies, reference a lot of film tropes in their story, in their structure, in their camera work. So you have a medium of a medium of games which are desperately trying to be like movies, and then when movies are made of them, they're garbage.
Yeah, that's really ironic.
Oh yeah. Remember when the movie The Matrix came out, and
Yes.
then the video game version of that was Max Payne, when they were like, "Hey, you know what's so cool about The Matrix? When time slows down and it goes into bullet time, let's make that just like a core game mechanic for an entire game."
Matrix for PlayStation 1. Incredible game. It's PlayStation 1, right?
I think it's PS2.
No,
Yeah.
fuck.
The
PS2.
PS2.
Matrix for PS2.
Enter the
For
Matrix.
N64?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that
It
the one
was
you play as Neo or
fantastic.
the one they tied into the movies?
Yeah, Enter the Matrix is the one where you play as Niobe and Ghost.
Yeah, I played that
Matrix
one.
Reloaded.
You could
Right.
unlock cutscenes that were movie clips from a movie that hadn't been released yet.
And were tangentially related to characters you did not care about.
Yes, because they weren't in the first movie. So you were like, who are these people?
It's just a game, bro.
It's just a game, bro. So I actually printed out a list from Wikipedia of video game movies that have been added.
Should we pass this list around? So
Well,
we can all
that's
look
the TV.
It's double-sided?
series.
You didn't make any.
Yeah,
copies,
double-sided
Dave?
it, bro.
Saving the environment.
I didn't make copies because you have phones and you can look it up yourself. But so
Wow,
the very first
throwing
video game
some
movie,
shade here.
the one that sort of set the tone, so to speak, the very first one was the Super Mario Brothers movie from 1993.
That's what the one everyone thinks of when they think of video game movies.
I think to this day, yeah, a lot of people might think of that one and be like, how did this happen?
I'm actually kind of surprised that with a franchise as big as Mario, that there's only been one Mario movie, and it was that one.
Are
way
you
back
that
then.
surprised that
Well,
they
yeah,
made
'cause it-
that? And then they were like, I think we're done with movies, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they'd maybe make like a, in 2017, like this era, maybe make a high quality
Well,
CG one or something.
I think specifically Nintendo was a lot looser with their IP in the 90s.
Like with the Donkey Kong TV show.
There's Donkey Kong Country TV show. There
Yep.
were Mario
CDI,
and
that's an
Zelda cartoon series and the Mario Super Show, which had live action too. Which that was truer to the source material than the
That's
Super
a
Mario
great
Bros.
show.
movie.
I have it on DVD.
I think the movie is the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's the one where Nintendo was like, "All right, we're done." Like,
Yeah,
Straw that broke
I
the
think they
Cooper's back.
locked their doors and they were like, "Yeah, we're never outsourcing our shit again." And they've made some stuff internally, not like Mario plot. But it's also on the same side. It's like, well, do any of us actually want a Mario movie? Do any of us want a Zelda movie? Like, for all of these franchises that people are like, oh, what if they made this? Like, even half the movies that are on this list, like Resident Evil has become a franchise in its own right. I don't think anyone would play a Resident Evil game and go, yes, I want to watch this as a movie now.
I think that leads into where, when it comes to video games, that's why they're so enjoyed, is because the experience is tailor-made for the player to control and to act or to make choices or to simply just be a part of the experience. But when you're in a movie and you're watching it and you're not really a part of the experience, you're engaged as an audience member, it doesn't connect the same way. And so when you try to kind of mix the two, it seems that movie studios just end up making a subpar action flick instead of, let's just go with Assassin's Creed. They didn't really make an Assassin's Creed movie. They made an action movie first and then threw a bunch of costumes of Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed lingo out there to appease the fans.
It usually feels like they had a script they were sitting on and they're like, oh, we just bought this license. We can just slap it onto that.
Exactly.
Which is also the way, I'm sure a lot of comic book movies were before the, let's say, 80s. I don't know. When did comic movies actually start
the big
becoming a thing?
TV shows first too,
Yeah.
like the TV show, like miniseries and stuff like that they used to put on. Like they were all like goofy and stuff, but they found a way to make them work. And now look at comic book movies. I never thought that we would have comic movies that are not cheesy, you know, bumbling around until I think Spider-Man came along, and that's when I was little. And I was like, oh wow.
I think maybe the Superman movie from the 70s was probably the first comic book movie that people were like, yes, that's...
I haven't seen that. So
I haven't seen it either, but that was a big deal back in the day.
They're campy,
Is that the one where he
but
flies
they're
around
pretty,
the world?
Yeah.
That's the second one.
That was Superman 2, yeah.
Lois!
And
He
then
sets time backwards by flying the other way around the Earth.
And then, like, kind of Superman 3, like, then buried the franchise again by, like, actually getting too campy and too silly, and it kind of, poisoned the well for a really long time. And I think it was the first X-Men in, like, 1999 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of turned people around.
What about 1989's Batman?
Yeah, the Batman films.
The Tim Burton.
Was that Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton, Tim Burton, Batman.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I thought it was great. Great film.
It's fun.
Great film.
I think I kind of forget about it being
okay.
a superhero movie because it's just Tim Burton going apeshit.
Going Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Batman sort of exploded the comic book movie, and that was the beginning of that. But it took a long time. It took decades of them making really campy, shitty, direct-to-video comic book movies before someone's like, hey, what if we take it a little bit seriously? Some would argue too seriously, but seriously nonetheless. And fast forward a decade, and now we're drowning in them. And most of them are pretty good, which is the crazy part.
Yeah.
But it's like they're becoming to that point where like now they're just becoming average. Like they're becoming
because
like,
it's
pretty
normal,
cookie cutter.
and because they're all creating cinematic universes that have to have consistent themes.
It's not
and
like each film
consistent
can have a major
cinematography.
punch.
Yeah, no one film can stand out too much from the crowd. And whenever it does, people like Guardians of the Galaxy or Deadpool, people are like, holy shit, this is so good. And there's just sort of the normal vanilla ones in the middle that are still good movies, but whatever. That's sort of a symptom of where we are as a culture, I guess.
Yeah, I think we discussed that a lot in the Spider-Man.
I think we did talk about that.
Podcast.
But with video game movies, I think it's because comic books. Okay, like you're really into comic books. I don't know if Jory, if you're into them as
I'm
much.
pretty into comic books.
Pretty into comics. Am I justified in saying that comic book plots, talking about like DC and Marvel giant universe things, they're kind of insane.
Every comic book movie has a world-ending tragedy, right? Constantly.
I'm talking about the source material that they're building these.
Yeah, it's completely crazy.
It's completely off the wall.
They were made in the 70s originally, most of these plots.
They're all drug-fueled nightmares.
Yeah, they're all like acid trips, right? Just look at the art of like Jack Kirby and stuff. You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, and there was kind of a symptom in comics in like the late 80s, early 90s when like Frank Miller started like kind of deconstructing it, and that's part of what inspired Tim Burton and the Batman movie I forgot about.
I actually love what came out of film with Frank Miller.
Was that?
I like what came out of Frank Miller's graphic novels, like into film.
Oh, okay.
Like I thought that they did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Especially with Sin City.
Yeah,
the first one, not the second one. I didn't like the second
Not
one.
The Spirit, though. The Spirit is one of the worst movies I've spent a single dollar
That's
on.
not Frank Miller.
He directed it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he did?
Frank
Yeah.
Miller wrote and
He wrote and
directed
directed
that film, my friend.
He didn't create the Spirit. That's like
No.
That's like a newspaper
That's,
comic.
Will Eisner.
Yeah.
But I did not see the Spirit
Don't
film.
Don't. It's not a movie you can make fun of. It's just sad.
It's a bad time.
It's-
Bummer.
When did Robert Rodriguez get his hands on Sin City?
2002.
After
Like, when did that come out?
He also directed a wonderful video game movie,
Spy
Spy
Kids?
Kids
Boy.
3D Game Over.
Lava
That's a
Girl.
video game movie.
That's very true.
Does that count in this category of what we're talking
Well,
about?
there's actually a separate category on Wikipedia that's games that I don't have it. I didn't print out that page, but it's like movies that reference games that aren't real games, just like plots that revolve around games in some regard. They're not an adaptation of a game's story and premise.
Oh, yeah.
So that includes things like Tron and Pixels, and all kinds of great stuff.
Ryan and I saw Pixels in theaters.
Right when it came out,
we had a
opening
great
weekend.
time. We're on a streak with these great movies. We saw Pixels in theaters. We saw the Emoji Movie in theaters.
Goodness.
You guys are tastemakers.
We are.
Have we talked about Pixels? I didn't know you guys had seen Pixels. I always
we
feel
saw
so
Pixels.
alone in having seen Pixels.
Matt enjoyed it a lot more than I did.
I thought it was fun. Okay,
Like-
it was
like-
bad, but I thought it was at least enjoyable.
But that's what
That sounds
but,
par for the course for video game movies.
But like my argument like about that was like the short film is fun and entertaining and the effects are fun. It's like you can just
there's
get that
barely
in the
any
short
plot to
film.
the short film. It was look at these special effects.
Yeah, but
Gary,
if
there wasn't much plot in this one.
If the plot's
I
gonna
enjoyed
be
the short film. I was like, this is great. This is such a neat little concept.
I maybe redeeming things about that film are like Dinklage was eating it up, like he was having a great time, and that sort of made the movie not a total bummer. And
Adam
then
Sandler.
There's like
Another great performance by Adam Sandler.
just class act, yeah. And then there's just the mortifying premise of like the one character getting horned by like the pixel woman, just
Yeah.
like the random hot lady.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, when Qbert gets made into the hot lady and he like kisses her and everybody cheers, like they have Adam Sandler acknowledge how mortifying it is that this creature that is an alien pixel monster that was just Qbert has just become a hot lady.
I'm really confused having not seen the film, but please
It's
continue.
dismal.
Like
yeah.
a human hot lady or a pixel hot lady?
Or a human pixel hot lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is like the only alien creature in the movie that isn't rendered as a hunk of pixels.
Doesn't Adam Sandler call someone a slut in the movie or something?
Oh yeah.
Are you
Like
thinking?
like a slut bomb?
A slut grenade or
A
something?
slut-
You don't remember that
Something.
video game from the 80s, Slut Bomb?
Yeah. Oh, that's what the
Arcade
reference was,
classic.
Matt. See, we were wondering. We're so dumb.
Was that Namco?
my favorite part of that movie is simply how, Adam Sandler, a simple plumber, is just allowed to walk into the White House because he's friends with the president, walk into like classified security briefings and just give his 2 cents.
and he goofed all the generals and stuff.
Yeah, he's just like talking back to him.
He's like, "You're fat, haha."
Yeah, that's pretty much
I'm
it.
Adam Sandler.
if
Your physical
classics.
appearance is the most funny thing about you.
If there was a video game and the entire game was 80s games coming to attack New York and you fought to fend them off, I imagine Pixels would be a perfect adaptation of that game. That it sounds like it's just all over the place, doesn't make any sense, there's barely a plot, and you leave feeling dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Was it
Could
New
we-
York or DC? Because they were I think it took place in DC, right?
Oh,
I
the short
think
film was
so.
New York.
Because he goes to the White House.
I have no.
Maybe they
like,
just moved the White House to New York for
Yeah, New York White House.
It's already there.
Yeah. Just it's easier to just he's there.
In
Yeah.
2020, this is where
And-
the White House is located.
That way Kevin James's commute for the presidency is shorter.
Was he the president?
Yeah,
James
Kevin
is
James
the
is the
And he's
president.
very believable.
There were actually other video game-ish movies that I wanted to talk about that I think do a better job than straight adaptations. But we can talk about that later. So I was saying that the original material from comic books is complete bonkers, and they're able to distill the ideas of a lot of these heroes and what they're standing for, their origin stories, which is fucking who cares. But they're able to kind of hammer out who that character is, and diehard comic book fans can be like, this is wrong and this is wrong and whatever, kind of nitpick it to death. But for a general audience that's not familiar with them, they're getting the broad brush strokes relatively across. With video games, I think it's a lot harder because I think it's also fair to say that most video game plots are pretty much hot garbage by themselves. And even games that we consider as a gaming community to have good plots are kind of relatively good compared to the general game story that's out there.
My kind of litmus test for games, I think, is like if someone took this exact story and made it into a book or a film, would I sit through it? Like the scenes in Grand Theft Auto, right? Are like, if I were watching this on TV,
You were saying the story scenes in GTA.
the story scenes, yeah, like acted out for real, it would like.
Tyler, I understand what you're saying, but I've read every Elder Scrolls adaptation that's been written.
And it's perfect.
It's not a great example.
Flawless. but I feel like a lot of video game like dialogues and scenes and acting, if you saw that acting for real portrayed by people, you would be like, am I watching a film on TBS?
Just a fan film or something.
Yeah.
That's what they all. Like, a lot of these films feel like high budget fan films, and that's kind of what they are because they're low budget because the studio doesn't want to put too much into them.
Some of these are high budget. The Warcraft movie was pretty high budget.
Oh, yeah.
The Prince of Persia movie was
the
pretty
Warcraft
high budget.
also made a lot in China, didn't it?
It did.
The Warcraft.
So like
movie,
the high budget
The
paid
Warcraft
off.
movie's box office was over 400 million, and I think over half of that was from China.
I'm mainly talking about that era when like they were kind of testing the waters with Mortal Kombat and stuff.
Yeah, like the 90s, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So
The Lara Croft movie from 2001.
Oh, they're making another.
They're
Tomb
making a
Raider
new
movie.
They're rebooting the Tomb Raider
with
film
the actress from Ex Machina, the one who
Yes.
plays the AI.
And it's based on like the new games, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a younger Lara.
Gritty.
The Mortal Kombat film is the one that really kind of sealed the deal for video games.
That they're amazing.
well, no. What it
I
did,
have very fond memories of the Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But
It's-
again, kind of, it's like the Street Fighter movie, kind of inspired.
Is that the one? Is that the one where it's like you are dead, or what does she say?
I think that's the beginning of the second movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they proved that if you put a man with four arms in a movie, you'd make $1 million.
Punch him in the balls?
Yeah, punch him in the balls. But that
I'm sorry, the Mortal Kombat movie made $100 million.
Yeah, sorry. Here's the thing. Guess how much the Mortal Kombat movie cost to make?
Like 20,000.
It was it was at a really tiny budget, and
Yeah.
it made like 100 times its.
You can see that
money.
why you're pulling on clothes every now and then.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat is like such an interesting distinction for being right on the threshold of CG, where Goro is like mostly stop motion, which
Yes.
I just fucking love.
But it set the standard to say like, hey, you can make kind of a cheap movie and it doesn't matter and you can make a ton of money on it. And like it did so well, that the director got to make 7 to 10 more movies.
I have no idea what else he did.
So
Resident
here's what he did.
Did he go? Oh, he was that guy?
He directed Mortal Kombat, super successful. They're like, all right, you get to do whatever you want next. His next film was
Did he do the sequel?
to Mortal Kombat. I don't
Yeah.
know if he did the sequel. His next film following it though was Event Horizon.
What?
Oh shit!
Which
Wow.
Yep.
That's an upgrade.
Okay, we saw that.
Which
Yeah, we saw
was
Event
a
Horizon.
financial huge flop.
Oh, well.
Spent a ton of money,
know
financially huge flop. So then they're
It wasn't
like,
horrible.
it scared the crap out of me when it came
scared
out.
me too.
I was terrified of that film.
Scared of that movie.
I recently rewatched it on Netflix. Less scary, like not a great film, but still pretty creepy and scary. So the soundtrack kind of ruins it because it's like this like horrible
Really
rap.
shitty synth.
Yeah, it's like this horrible '90s like. Yeah,
It's part of the charm when you go back and watch old sci-fi.
it is a little bit, yeah. But then next films he did basically were just started the Resident Evil films. Small budget, huge return on investment.
They continue to get like big returns, don't they?
They
Yeah.
always make money, and that's how he's done. Like he now basically just has his company that just like makes Resident Evil movies.
I think other
It looks like
companies
each
are
Resident Evil
confused.
movie made more and more money.
Yeah, and
until the fifth
They-
one, when it was a bit of a step down, but still made hundreds of millions.
They're
so.
hugely financial successes, and you know what? They're fun.
I don't. I love the Resident
They're
Evil
super
movies.
fun.
And
I
don't-
categorize them as B movies. They're very just kind of like
They know what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
They're not trying to be anything else.
I don't know if Paul W.S. Anderson is going to be involved with it, the director we're talking about. But
At first, I thought I was like, wait, there will be blood.
Oh yeah, not to be confused with the other.
with a more legitimate director. So the most recent Resident Evil film is touted as being the last one, and I actually
Isn't
I
it
actually-
literally called like the final? Yeah, the final
the
chapter.
final chapter.
I feel like a monster for not having seen it because I like the
It's
franchise.
the end of the saga.
Joey, I have seen the final Resident Evil movie. There's no way that they will have another one.
Damn. But I think like the weekend after that movie came out, they announced that they're going to relaunch the franchise.
Oh yeah.
Because those movies have always been so profitable that they're just.
Yeah. No,
right,
they've all
let's
made
do it
hundreds
again.
of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So.
We all love the scene where they're fighting Wesker in the lab, right? The one where she cuts a zombie dog in half by kicking a shard of broken glass through it.
So dope. So dope.
So good. So good. Just describing it to you, Matt.
Because I haven't seen it. That sounds. I'm picturing it now.
That sounds like something I would enjoy.
That sounds great.
Spoiler alert, in the final movie, there's a bunch of shots where you see Wesker, and he's
Is it the same actor?
I think it's the same actor, but he's in a dark room and he's always wearing sunglasses no matter what.
So it could be any actor, really.
Could be any actor. He definitely is always wearing sunglasses.
It could be John C. Reilly for all you know.
I could be John Cena for all I know.
It could be John Cena.
He's gonna be.
I think they can
bull,
afford Cena, maybe
right?
not
Or is it Ferdinand? John Cena's gonna be Ferdinand. Whoever read Ferdinand.
I mean, that's kind of. I wish that they weren't going to make that Ferdinand movie because that was kind of like a big book in my childhood. Now they're making this hilarious animated movie with John Cena voicing, this
I don't know if you're telling a goof or.
No,
it's very real.
You know Ferdinand the Bull, the children's
Yeah,
book?
I remember
Animated
it.
movie coming out with
Isn't
John
that like
Cena.
10
Ferdinand.
pages?
Yeah, it's pretty short.
Are we
Okay,
talking
well,
about
they-
the Archduke?
No.
the guy who he didn't cause it, but
His assassination.
Yeah.
He very much would have preferred not causing it.
R.I.P. Archduke.
Pour one out for my boy Archduke Ferdinand. But I have a question or just something to float. Do you think a lot of these video game movies are? Do you think they're lackluster? Do you think part of the reason is because they want to appeal to a more mass, wider audience, so they kind of have to take the story and kind of mold it into more of like a pandering thing to more people than what the original like game story might be?
I think it's
Does
a
that make
little
sense?
bit. I know what you're asking. I think it's a little bit of almost a catch-22 what they're trying to do, where they're like, oh, we have this property and we're going to base a movie off of it, but I think it's a lack. So I think it's a multifaceted problem where more often than not, the source material is not known for its story.
Right.
They've made 2 Hitman movies.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of fans of Hitman's plot. I think people like the gameplay of those
Like
games.
the concept of
And the concept of it, and maybe the world that he inhabits, as is so often with the games, that like I said earlier that so many of these plots are garbage. I think there are some really good video game stories, but I think the best video game stories are the most minimalist ones, where they're just getting across very simple ideas. Like Shadow of the Colossus is one of, I think, my favorite games, and I think it tells a very, very evocative story because you can tell that story in 3 sentences. I think that's part of it, and it reflects itself in the game. And that would not work as a movie, even though they tried to make it into a movie for a while, and I think it fell through.
Oh, did they?
Oh yeah.
It was only 3 seconds long. It was just a guy.
It was a
He
short
read
film.
these 3
It
sentences.
was actually a
out loud.
Vine. They made a very high budget Vine.
And now it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone, exactly. So I think the source material is lacking more often than not. The directors and producers come in with a lack of respect and a lack of understanding of the source material.
Right.
So they're just
That's a big
looking
part
at,
of it.
they're not playing the games themselves. They're just taking a very superficial look of, okay, this thing's got a guy in a suit with a red tie and he kills people. Got a barcode on his head. Go. And they have no idea who this character is in the game.
They don't have that original passion that a lot of people
And I'm not
have.
saying that that's required by any means. They could take a surface level view of it, but somehow they're managing to get that right for comic book movies and other adaptations that are successful.
I think it's also they just feel safe because they're riding on the coattails of just the name.
They
of
know
the
people
game.
will buy
So-
tickets no matter what. So.
But then,
Oh, yeah.
but that's where 'cause some of these just don't make any money because some of them just don't bring in
they're
an
alienating
audience.
the only audience that they had, which is
Yeah.
the fans of the game,
Which
by
I'm-
just being like, it's just this thing now.
Which I was telling you beforehand, they should just because I guess most gamers they don't trust that there's going to be a good video game movie. That's just whenever they see a video game movie, a trailer for it, they're like, it's probably not going to be good.
Well,
I hope
and,
that
and
it's
so
good.
many of us have been burned so many times.
Yeah,
where we're
well,
like,
that's
oh
what I'm-
fuck, they're making an Assassin's Creed movie. That's maybe it's like The Matrix meets time travel. They got Michael Fassbender, they got Jeremy Irons. How can this fail? And then it comes out and everyone says it's garbage.
It's they should just focus on making a good movie, and then when people are like, hey, this movie's actually not bad, I think just making a decent movie from the video game would be enough of a marketing ploy in of itself to get people to go see it, because it's wow, a video game movie that's not that bad.
I totally agree. I think that there's a lot of potential in the idea of a video game movie. I think that there are a lot of... so for example, a game that I think would make for a really good movie is Bioshock.
Yes.
Not because the game's story would translate to a film, because a lot of that would not translate to a non-interactive medium. But I think that the world of Rapture, the ideas and philosophies, are an interesting setting
The
to
atmosphere,
then
too.
tell a story.
Yeah.
Tell us something about the creation and fall of Rapture. I don't know. But Gore Verbinski, the guy who directed the Pirates movies, the first couple or whatever,
And Mouse Hunt.
and Mouse Hunt. He did Mouse Hunt. Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane and
Yeah.
I did not know that. He was signed on to do a Bioshock movie for like 5 years, and it just never came together. Probably because it was going to be a hard R movie, and they're already looking at tiny budgets for video game adaptations.
Yeah, but we're seeing R's are coming back.
Kind of. I think it's still a dicey proposition for a video game R-rated movie.
I think I still think it's interesting that we've gotten several movies back to back that have been rated R that have been successful, which otherwise, I mean, just right off the back, Deadpool, Logan.
Yeah.
I
think it's more likely now, but my point being, I don't think if they were going to make Bioshock the movie, I would pray to God it's not the story from the game.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, yes, I totally agree with you. I think something to think about that makes it really hard to adapt certain video games is specifically the main characters in games are oftentimes intentionally left blank.
Yes.
They're avatars for you to live in that world.
They don't make for good protagonists from a third person
exactly
perspective.
Like Mario is an visually iconic character.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask yourself, what would Mario do in this situation? You can't
Can I get that on a bracelet?
You can't pick a strong answer because the actual things of like what Mario says are waha.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's a little bit unfair to pick on Mario because those games have a fairy tale plot.
Exactly, yeah.
But let's look at Half-Life, which people have a wonderful respect for the story of the Half-Life games.
Great writing.
Gordon is not a character.
Not at all. He's
He's
a
an
vessel.
MIT pencil pusher. I don't even like. He's a theoretical physicist, and he's a smart dude, and he likes punching stuff and shooting guns. Like, he does not have a personality, and all you can sort of glean from the other characters in that game is very, very slight and all between the lines.
Yeah.
So if you're making a Half-Life movie, you would have to start from scratch, and it would piss off fans of the game.
You have to redevelop that character, which is how you end up with Link from the
the cartoon.
From the cartoon.
Excuse me, princess.
Exactly, because it's like, okay, Link also has no character other than
And we need to create a banter from to have with the princess.
Did a great job with it too.
He really knocked it out of the park.
Really did.
What if Link is just an annoying butthole?
Well, speaking of the Half-Life thing, I remember a couple years ago, everyone was like, "Oh, did you hear they're making a Half-Life movie and they're making a Portal movie?" And that just, I guess that
Portal,
never happened.
100% the same thing. GLaDOS is an interesting character.
Great
but
character.
You
Cool
can't make a
world.
movie around that. You
Right.
can make a game with that. You can make a fantastic game, and they did already.
GLaDOS is in Pacific Rim and Pacific Rim 2.
Is she in the sequel?
Yeah, in the trailer to the sequel, I thought they used her
she
voice.
voices the
Ellen McLean or whatever her name is.
Gosh, she's
I'm gonna
Chills.
use Pacific Rim as a segue to something that I mentioned earlier, which is that there are movies that basically feel more like video game adaptations than actual video game adaptations.
and they're good.
I think Pacific Rim is one of them.
Yeah,
It's basically a fighting game movie.
Yeah,
and it's fun all
And
the
it's
way through.
fantastic, and
I
I'm
can't
really
wait
excited for the
two.
sequel.
So excited for two.
When I was looking up shit on Wikipedia, Edge of Tomorrow, which was then rebranded Live Die Repeat. Did any of you guys see
Didn't it
that?
change
Yeah,
its
it
name
did.
again?
It did. Well, it might
All
change
you
its
need
name.
is kill.
All you need is kill. That was the manga,
it
right?
Another title for it?
Was that the manga?
I don't
Tom Cruise.
Oh, okay.
Emily
Yeah, that's
Blunt.
right.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
No, wait, I'm thinking, what's the one with Will Smith and Jaden Smith?
Oh,
Pursuit of Happiness.
Karate Kid.
No,
After Earth.
yeah, not Pursuit
I didn't
of
see
Happiness.
that.
Did you
Was-
see
was-
After
was
Earth?
No, I didn't see After. I got my.
Was
movies
that
confused.
structured like a game?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh,
no one saw
Why'd you ask?
Because I thought that maybe it was that one for a second.
Oh
I
no
forgot.
no. So Edge of Tomorrow is Tom Cruise in this exosuit thing.
That's right,
He's
I
punching
remember.
aliens.
Scenes are done really well. Like the direction, like the practical effects used. I love that about
It
the
looked
movie.
like hot garbage, and then it came out, and everyone was like, "No, it's actually good." And then when it was put out on DVD, they rebranded the movie, which made it even more confusing. But it's basically an actual video game in a movie. He's in a time loop like Groundhog Day style, and he's fighting the same battle over and over. And whenever he dies, he wakes up like 2 days prior. And so when he first starts, he's a terrible soldier. He doesn't know how the equipment works. He's never been in a battle before. And then after doing this, and the movie doesn't exactly say how long it was. It's kind of implied it's been like years of him reliving the same day. But at the end, he is perfectly like he's predicting exactly like that monster's gonna jump over that dune. Pow, shoot in the face. This one's gonna attack this guy. Push it off. Like he knows exactly where everything's gonna happen. And he's just perfectly executing everything. I'm like, this is Dark Souls, the movie. This is exactly what happens in so many games when you have like enemy spawns in the same location, and you, as a player, through multiple deaths, get better and better at the game. And it wasn't a video game movie. I think if anyone was adapting a video game, they would leave out the whole resurrection cycle that happens because it's really weird. But in this movie, it happens really, really well. And I'm not the first person to say that. A lot of people were
The pseudoscience behind it's kind of dumb and
the movie's not
ridiculous.
great, but I think it's really good. And if it was a video game movie, it would be the best one ever.
Yes. It probably would have been the best one so far. I think Matt may disagree, though.
Are we talking about Spy Kids 3D now?
We're talking about Angry Birds, I thought.
Oh, Angry Birds.
Which is tied on Rotten Tomatoes with Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within,
Really?
as the highest rated video game adaptation.
Okay, so
They're both at 44%.
let me just say real quick. I get it. It's Angry Birds. And before I saw the movie, I was like, Angry Birds.
Next, they're gonna
the
make an
movie.
emoji movie.
Yes.
Or an Animal Crackers movie.
Are they?
Yes.
Jesus.
There's a
Anyway.
poster in the movie theater, by the way.
You think I'd go to the movie theater?
I was willing to give the Angry Birds movie a shot, and I actually ended up enjoying it. I thought that it was fun, and it had some jokes that made me laugh, and the animation was good, and it didn't bore me. So I was actually surprised.
That is a solid review.
Well, I feel like the
Didn't
reason,
bore me.
Well, I feel like Angry Birds could be seen as probably one of the better video game movies, is because it's a kids movie, so it's not like having, I don't know, because
The stakes are a bit lower.
not a lot of people have this big fan base, like they better include this from the game because if they don't, it won't make any sense, all this stuff. So like they got to just make a kids movie with a plot that had really nothing to do. They just used the character designs essentially. They took some stuff from the game, which
Yeah,
is
it
kind of
wasn't really
odd in some
that
places.
based on the game.
But
I hated the film.
did you see it?
I did, and I really hated the film up until the point in which it became the game, and we got to see the birds get into a slingshot and shoot down buildings. But up until that point, when it just literally explained to us how you play Angry Birds, the video game, could not stand it.
I really appreciate this bit. Thank you, Tyler.
Just live action footage of a man with an iPad.
Yeah, it's just,
The second
it
half of
gives
the
you.
movie was a camera on an iPad.
It's just a
doing
guy
the
in a
voices.
stall at work taking a shit.
They spend an entire hour teasing you with characters and plot until the very end when it finally gives you a tutorial.
Just show me the reference to the thing I understand.
Just give me the tutorial on how to play Angry Birds. That's all I want.
It's not like an offensive film. It's actually just a very perfectly average, just decent kids film. And so I think that's like good, but it's also scary because if more studio, like I don't know how much it made, but if studios like attach onto that, like let's make more kids films with like this,
Well,
and then you'll get more
spoiler
stuff like
alert.
the Emoji Movie and stuff.
Spoiler alert, they are in development on a Minecraft film.
Yeah, but I'm actually.
I thought that was canceled.
No,
No,
it's
I'm
still
hopeful
in
for that
development.
because
Didn't
of
the director like quit?
Rob McElhenney
Probably.
from
I thought
Always Sunny
he
in
was like
Philadelphia?
he quit or like he was fired or some shit.
I didn't hear that he was fired.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I heard that.
Well,
Maybe it's in my dreams.
But
I don't know.
that almost 1,000% will be a kids movie, and it'll probably be decent as a kids movie of some like, oh, I'm in the world of Minecraft and gotta
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
I think watching Angry Birds, I managed like 10 minutes and I was just having a miserable time, so I peaced out. And that's the
try
thing, is,
watching the Emoji Movie. Then you can come and complain.
I feel like a pretender for sure.
Like seriously, I'd rather watch Angry Birds 3 times in a row than watch the Emoji Movie.
I
again.
am in agreement with that. Let me say real quick.
That's hyperbole. I'm not gonna do that.
I picked up this sheet that Barry has that has how much these movies earned, these video game movies.
It's just a list of all the
Yeah.
American film adaptations.
So I
'Cause
wa-
there's a lot of other countries that have done stuff.
I wanted to see how much the Angry Birds movie had made, and I'm scrolling down. I see the Angry Birds movie, then I realize there's a 2 behind it, scheduled for September 20th, 2019. So there's already
go.
the Angry Birds movie 2,
Absolutely.
as well as Minecraft on May 24th, 2019. Okay. And an Untitled Sonic the Hedgehog film in 2019.
Which I looked up, and the article about that says it's a quote from a Sony exec from many years ago, so take it with a grain of salt. But when they bought the rights, they said it was going to be a CG and live action hybrid.
that is absolutely what I
and
heard.
that makes me so excited.
Wait, are you talking about it's gonna be like Sonic goes through a portal? Whoa, I'm in New York City.
we need
And then he gets a chili dog.
Is there a chili dog, bro?
Space Jam.
I
We
really
need,
hope it's a live action.
It's gonna be like
we need
Smurfs
Jaleel White
Enchanted.
for a dual role. He plays the voice of Sonic and you see him live
and they both
action.
go, what? when they see each other.
They meet in real life. I
Yeah.
love that.
I am inclined to think it's probably going to be CG only at this point, but I really hope that it actually is a hybrid.
I hope we get to see Sonic kiss a real life human woman.
Yes.
Or man, whichever. It's fine, but as long as it's
There's something else.
Yeah?
There's
What?
Detective
Go on.
Pikachu.
Wait, that's
what-
a
yeah,
movie?
yeah.
They're making a movie.
That's happening.
I love that.
What?
A Detective Pikachu.
And that's an American production too.
That's on this list.
Yeah.
Will that
So
will
that's
that be
that's the
animated,
first
though?
Nintendo feature film.
I think
in
that one was
forever.
going to be a live action CGI mix as well. Actually.
Wow.
I guess Nintendo's made a bunch of movies. They've just all been Pokemon.
Wow.
They're
Yeah,
all animated Pokemon.
Which I've gone
films.
back and watched like some of those. They're not good.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
I
Like
was
they
a
were
big fan
like
of
when
the-
I was a kid, I loved them and I can see why I loved them. But like going back, like the one with Mewtwo, for example, I was like, whoa, this is a lot.
that's Pokemon's first movie.
Woo!
I would
Single tier.
my main memory of that film, and of course there's the single tier thing, is that when Ash Ketchum appears to have died, all of the other characters gather around his corpse
And cry on it.
As they're crying, James from Team Rocket says something to the effect of, "I came here prepared for trouble, but not for this." It's stuck in my head.
He never wanted Ash to die. He just wanted all of his Pokemon.
He tells you to prepare for trouble.
He did warn Ash. He said prepare for trouble. Ash did not
And
prepare.
then Jesse confirms that and says there'll be twice as much trouble. So on this list, there's also a Rampage movie coming out April of next year.
Yeah, we got
April
Dwayne
20th.
The Rock Johnson.
420. Yeah, The Rock.
Dwayne
Is he
is
playing
gonna be-
Lizzie?
No.
Oh,
As
okay.
far as I can gather,
You don't.
Okay, speaking of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I think Rampage is a fun little monster game. It's really fun.
Yeah.
We enjoyed playing it on the channel, Matt, right?
Yeah.
You enjoyed it?
I liked Rampage.
He was introduced to it recently. I know it's like an arcade game originally, right?
yeah,
Super fun.
It's like
It was
awesome.
Midway.
But he's also in another video game movie.
Jumanji.
Yes. I like how you knew exactly.
I know exactly where you're going with that.
I thought you were going for Doom.
Oh.
He was in the Doom movie.
Yeah,
he was.
Which had a first-person sequence, which everyone remembers fondly. I'm sure.
Because it was perfect.
It was the part of the movie, like the Angry Birds movie. It was like they're doing the thing.
Finally.
finally.
What I wanted to see.
It's Act 3, but we got here.
recreation of the game in film.
Yeah.
No, and that is actually, I was thinking about the Doom movie earlier when we were talking about like how movie plots will like try to make themselves more adaptable to like a general audience. Cause like Doom has some fucked up shit. Like it's not on Mars and they're not demons. They're like mutants, which is miserable.
Do they make it a
But, like,
horror movie or do they make it a fun action with some horror elements?
They actually were trying pretty hard for like the balance that Doom 3
Action
had.
horror.
Because
Yeah.
around that time I thought around that time the Doom games were more centered around the horror.
Oh yeah,
aspect.
Doom 3 is like much more a horror game than an
Monster
action
closets
game.
everywhere.
Yeah, but like Doom really interests me because they put in a lot of work to try to make it similar to the games tonally, and they just fucked up every choice they made. It is just like a miserable movie to try
Did
to
Dwayne do
watch.
his eyebrow thing where one's super raised and the other's like down
I
here?
think he's doing it the
Every
entire
promotional
film.
picture of him ever.
He does it in the opening shot of the Jumanji trailer whenever he first arrives. He's
I don't
looking
know
up
how
and
to
that's
feel
his
about
face.
the Jumanji sequel. That's
They're doing something new.
I'll give it a shot.
it's-
Actually,
it's
it looks like
something
it's
new.
fun. I don't like it for
just-
the fact that it's Jumanji because it's kind of like it's such a sacred title that they're doing this. But I mean, I like Jack Black.
At least they're not trying to do the same story again.
Yeah, exactly.
if they were redoing the same story, I'd probably be more upset. It's just a frustrating continuation of the trend of we're gonna do a soft reboot or a full reboot of a property, and the end result has nothing to do with the original. It's
Right.
just slapping a label onto something that could be a fine film in its own right. So the Rampage movie that's coming out next year has zero plot synopsis whatsoever on Wikipedia.
I think they're already done filming it.
I think they are already done filming it. One of the descriptions of one of the cast members, their character,
Werewolf
it
man?
says she is a scientist who artificially like creates these massive. She experiments on a monkey, a lizard, and a wolf, and they become giant. So I don't think that there's people that turn into giant monsters. There's giant monsters that Dwayne The Rock Johnson has to then destroy.
So there's not going to be a comedy bit whenever they go into human, they're naked, going, "Whoa, where am I?"
Right.
Covering their private parts.
So it's like that, when I think of Rampage, I think of one thing. I think of people that turn into giant monsters, and they got rid of half of that.
Or
It might be
weird.
fine.
Wait, or Barry.
Yeah.
The scientist accidentally makes those animals big, so she has to give that same potion to humans to fight the monsters.
Oh, if this
I
ends,
think it's giving them too much credit.
And they do that thing that video game movies do where he's only been referred to by his nickname the entire time, and then at the end they say his first name and it's George, and
his last name is Rampage.
George Rampage.
And
they're
the
gonna
fucking monkey.
They're
or
gonna do the
whatever.
thing where there's a giant battle going on, and then they cut to a side perspective of them all standing on the different skyscrapers.
See, I was thinking
and it just looks like the game, but it's CG.
I was thinking they'd do something different where like there'd be a background, like this big fight would happen, then you get that Godzilla cut to like the fight. You know the recent Godzilla where they cut out of the fight, but it's still the fight, but it's a bad angle, like watching someone's TV behind their shoulder. It's gonna be two kids turned away on an arcade game going, come on, hit him, and whenever they're saying that, the characters are going to be hitting each other, jump, and then the other character is going to jump in the background.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big funny moment, and wait and watch for it. I'm excited.
It'll be just like Ender's Game.
Ryan, are you on the development team for this movie? You're not telling us?
just please go watch this movie.
Green
a lot
light.
of heart and soul has been poured into
How
it.
do you know that?
Pay attention to
you
the
know, just
additional
whatever.
writing credits.
Matt, you should go see it.
Okay.
April 20th, 420. Remember the date? The date. Yeah.
I know what I'm doing on 420 this year.
Wowie.
What are you doing next year?
Oh, watching Rampage.
Oh yeah, sure.
Not drugs.
That's what everyone should do.
So I did print out a second Wikipedia article. Look at me doing all this research.
Oh my lord.
Which is a list of television programs based on video games. Because part of what I was going to get at earlier is that games are pretty long endeavors for the most part. And so there's a lot of video game stories, especially in RPGs and stuff, where, holy shit, how could you condense that into a movie? There's so much plot. I'm not saying it's good plot, but there's so much plot that it would fit a TV show better than a movie.
Wasn't Netflix making a Zelda thing?
I don't know. I kind of doubt it.
There's been multiple attempts at
Well, they
that,
just did the
Okay.
Castlevania show, which everyone said was really good.
Okay.
Which I haven't seen it yet. I want to. The idea that Konami did something good in 2017 is just really upsetting to me. But I've heard the show is very good. So they probably didn't work on it. They just licensed it out. But there's been a whole heck of a lot of video game shows, but they're almost entirely all directed at children. So you have the various Sonic shows. You got a bunch of animes. There's Angry Birds Toons. Is a thing on here. The Earthworm Jim the TV show.
we're all just like, okay.
Not a fan of what's his name?
Not gonna touch
Doug
that.
Doug Tennepool.
Earthworm Jim, the TV show.
Yeah.
Wait, is that Adult
Perfect.
Swim? That no.
No, that was
It's like a Fox Kids show. from
occurred
the
in the
day.
90s.
With Dan Castellaneta, Homer Simpson himself as Earthworm Jim.
What? Yeah. Because I know that Adult Swim recently got the rights to Toe Jam and Earl.
What? I know they're putting out the game.
They're making a new Toe Jam and Earl game.
Yeah,
right?
it got kickstarted in Adult Swim.
That's
Oh,
Adult
yeah,
Swim
sure.
games.
Yeah. Okay.
But basically, there were a lot of cartoon shows in the 90s and early 2000s based on game properties, and there are still ones being made, but I think other than Castlevania, I don't see a single thing on this list that's an ongoing series that is actually directed towards not kids.
Yeah, Sonic would be probably like would Sonic be the longest video game icon that's maintained a TV show?
100%.
Oh, definitely.
sure.
Yeah.
Because this shows like if there's been multiple shows off of one property, and so like Mario's a couple, but they're all from the late 80s, early
They
90s.
ended up dying out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo was like, screw that. But there's been a bunch of Sonic series. Apparently there's a Rez show in production.
What?
That's what it says.
Kids,
REZ.
kids love tripping.
Rez.
I always read about, and I have never actually seen it, but in like 1989 or something, there was a Maniac Mansion sitcom
What?
where it was about the murderous Edison family from the original game. Well, they're in Day of the Tentacle too, but in the show, they were just like a wacky family. And like it had nothing to do with the plot of the game, but like
Holy crap.
Lucasfilm probably put like $200 into it.
They had a set already built, and they're like, sure. That's interesting.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's like one of the first like video game TV shows.
But I sincerely think that I don't think any directors and producers are making these video game adaptations to create the story in a new media. I think they're just trying to earn a quick buck.
Right.
But if they actually did want to adapt a video game story, I think a TV series would be a much better way to kind of convey all these thousands of plot points.
I say no TV series because people are now going overboard with it and they're starting to just drag it along and along. I think a good little mini series of like a 6-part.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
miniseries.
Yeah, I'm not saying it needs to be 10 seasons.
Yeah. Well, that's what it would turn into.
You wouldn't need 10 seasons to do the Metal Gear Solid story, but
I think that should just stay a game. I think
agree.
there's so many things about that in so many of the games where it's just memorable as the game.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I always come back to Bioshock as like I think it's a very unique, interesting world that they could tell a lot of interesting stories in. And there's probably a couple franchises. I think Assassin's Creed is one too. That's a really simple concept that you can then apply a lot of different ideas to.
Yeah.
They just fucked it up.
They should have.
But if they didn't fuck it up, I think there'd be a lot of potential there.
They chose the part that most people had a problem with, was like they focused. I think probably 70% of the film is focused on the Animus.
The modern day stuff.
Yeah, which is like fine and everything, but when people think of Assassin's Creed, they kind of probably wanted something else.
All I wanted to do was see a man in a cloak running on walls, doing parkour.
You saw that for like 5 minutes.
Jump. Yeah,
it was like 5 minutes.
It's like it's like the original Transformers movie, right? Where you're like, oh, cool, a Transformers film. I am expecting to just see big robots fighting, and then what you get is like an hour of a teenager Sam Witwicky, a teenager with problems who's sad, and then like 15 minutes at the end of like big robots fighting.
You forgot about the masturbation joke.
Oh god,
that was a good one.
But now the recent ones are exclusively giant robots punching each other,
and they're better films for it. Like they're too much shaky cam. You can't really tell what the hell's happening. There's a lot of
easier
static.
To direct.
Yeah, there's a lot of visual static going on, but almost they're getting there.
Did any of you guys see the Prince of Persia movie?
I did, yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
I didn't. No, I did not.
It was so sad when his boyfriend died.
Is that a thing in the movie?
What? No,
he's referencing.
Yeah, wasn't it
Brokeback Mountain?
Yeah,
Brokeback.
I'll cut off the bit then.
yeah.
Brokeback Persia.
Am I the only one who saw Prince of Persia movie?
I didn't see it.
Seems that way.
Guys,
Brokeback Mountain.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
I looked it up earlier because I was just trying to figure out, I was like, how many of these video game adaptations have been made? Disney was apparently trying to pitch it as a new Pirates of the Caribbean. They wanted to start this whole new franchise of adventures and
Based on Persia.
I did not get that from watching the film.
apparently no one did.
I got cool. See ya.
All I remember is the controversy leading up to the release that they've whitewashed this story that I don't know anything about. I guess
I was too young to care about things like that.
You were too young? What year was that?
That was recent, wasn't it?
That was like
year.
that was like when I was in middle
Wasn't
school
it
or
like
high
10
school.
years ago now?
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
I'm only 20.
2010.
That movie.
2010.
So I was
7 years
only
ago,
only like 14.
That movie really
that was
interests me too.
2010.
Because
That's bad. I
remember
16.
hearing that Jordan Mechner, who was the creator of the original Prince of Persia, and he was like really important on Sands of Time and everything. He was actually like, I could be completely misremembering this, but he was like executive producer on it. He had like a lot of creative input into that movie. I know he made tons of bucks off it. Don't necessarily know if it made it into a decent film.
That movie made $300 million.
Department could have done a better job on the film. That's all I'll say.
Ryan, I thought we were going to keep this civil.
I'm sorry.
The coolest thing about that film, Prince of Persia, though, is if you get a copy on VHS, you can actually it totally implements the rewind mechanic of the game. So at any point in the movie,
Tyler.
you can rewind it and play it forward.
Oh, God.
I have a question for everybody that I think would be interesting.
Yes, Matthew.
What is something... Now, imagine not a shitty remake. Imagine this is incredible. What is a game that you would like to see be made into a film or a television series? And it would be good.
Should we go around the table for
Yeah,
this?
I think we should.
Let's
I've
go
already
with
given
Barry,
my
go to
answer.
or whatever.
I can try to think of a second one, but I would say Bioshock. As a movie.
I personally, just because I think it would be a lot of fun if it was, as you said, they had to make it like really good. And
It would be really good.
yeah, for what it was. Mine would be Gears of War for some reason,
Gears
just
of War.
because.
I think that's another one.
Just because it's so entertaining. I actually do.
You got
enjoy
gross
the
monsters come out of the ground and beat them up.
chainsaws on your guns.
Yeah.
It's just
It could be a
just,
super. If it took itself not very seriously,
exactly.
like some of the games.
Yeah. Everything after, like, I think 2 kind of became somewhat of a soap opera, but it's like my favorite story of all of them, I think.
Yeah, but it still struck a balance where it'd still be super goofy, and then it was like, yeah, it was the Maria stuff that kind of fell flat.
That hit me hard. I cried when I played it. I was like,
Came out of that little tube, and you're like, "Oh no, what happened to her?"
oh no, Maria, please.
You guys have noticed that I have modeled myself after Marcus Phoenix, right?
As a human, I live my life the way Marcus did.
The podcast listeners can't see me, but
You wear that do-rag thing really well.
my face is a foot wide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but or Matt, you're next.
Honestly, I think that this is gonna sound lame, guys, but I think that Chrono Trigger as an anime would work really well.
That's pretty dope.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never played it, but
Never played Chrono Trigger.
It's good.
You could make it
think it
super
would translate well?
episodic. Like
Would
I
it turn
read
out
it
like
as
a
a
Final
manga.
Fantasy movie though? Or you said it as an anime, but
Yeah,
we're
like an
already
anime.
saying it's gonna be good.
be good,
So
yeah.
this
Good
is just what
version
you
of
want to
it.
see.
And also, I would just love to see any form of Katamari Damacy created into something. I don't care if it's an anime or a movie, if it was good, because I don't want them to shit on that. But if it was good, I think that would be really fun and creative.
It could be like a no-speech film just about that.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson could play the King of all cosmos.
Oh, perfect.
There's a scientist trying to create little balls that roll up into bigger things and accidentally creates Dwayne the Rock Johnson that can actually do the same thing.
Just start rolling muscle, and it collects more muscle.
I have a follow-up to Bioshock. Surgeon Simulator, I think, could make for a very, very good comedy.
Happy Wheels also would be a great movie. What else?
I'm not even kidding. I think Surgeon Simulator would be a very funny comedy.
Steven
A guy who's trying to
Steven
perform
Sausage
surgery
Roll?
and is no
It'd be a
big
funny
easily.
Pixar
The
short at
Witness?
the beginning of a
Witness?
Pixar movie.
Yes, it would be a good short. I think most video games would make for a decent short.
Yeah.
Because you can be like, here's a fun little story, and then you're done. Not having to carry an entire hour and a half long
Team Fortress
Piece.
2 movie.
It's tough when you don't care about what you're
Overwatch
making.
movie.
Yeah, animated in the same style.
I'd like to see a Phoenix Wright, very serious
Marcus
law,
Phoenix?
A court drama?
law procedural, yeah, in the same vein as The Practice or any.
But
or,
do they look like anime?
no, I think they're human actors who just have
Was
like
there a Japanese
they have
film?
anime hair.
Was there a Phoenix Wright Japanese movie?
I think there's an anime.
Maybe.
I gotta look. I think it might already exist.
Oh boy. Well, never.
Okay, am I
Screw
dreaming
me.
this? Am I completely dreaming this, or was there ever a Phoenix Wright Harvey Birdman crossover? Or
There
is
was
that-
not.
Okay,
No,
I
I
I don't
might
think they
regret
existed at
that.
the same time.
There's a Harvey Birdman game for the Wii that's basically a Phoenix Wright game.
I must have completely just imagined that.
There was a movie called Ace Attorney, came out in 2012.
Wow.
It has a 6.6 on IMDb. So I guess I should have printed out the list of Japanese movies. Because I guess they're better than the American ones.
Dang.
I've seen the Animal Crossing
Oh
movie.
my god, this looks so insane.
Matt, how was it?
It was charming. It was a little weird, but
everything you wanted?
charming.
I've always thought about trying to grab it, but
Yeah, that's pretty darn close. But what I imagine though is it's Phoenix Wright, but it's written. It's like a David E. Kelly show, right? You know, like Boston Legal, or the like.
yeah, and it's deeply interested in like soul-rending societal problems.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
I'm having a really hard time with this question.
Can't say Dream Daddy.
that's not a game.
Yeah, you can't say Dream Daddy.
Tetris.
Are they making a Tetris movie?
I've always thought of Tetris.
Dream
thought they were making a
Tetris, a
Tetris
Tetris dating
Oh hell! The
simulator.
director of Food Fight is making a Tetris movie. I forgot.
Food Fight. He's
yeah.
still getting work.
Is he gonna get Charlie Sheen in this one too?
It's like they're doing the like Birdemic 2 thing where they probably want him to make a funny bad movie,
What if
and
it's
so it's
good?
just going to be an
What if it's real? What if it's pixels, but it's really serious?
I don't know. Sharknado 2 surprised me. It was still good. I don't know.
Charlie Sheen plays Hell.
It's kind of similar to what Barry was saying earlier, that like video game stories are themselves just lifts from Hollywood movies. I feel like almost any game, if you tried to adapt it, like I feel like MGS, if that got, and there's been that movie's been in development forever, and I think it still is as far as I know.
I doubt it's happening.
And if you tried to make that into a film, though, it would just turn into a generic action thriller.
Well, yeah, the things that make the Metal Gear story unique would not translate into an hour and a half long movie.
Yeah.
That's why, like, a Metal Gear series could potentially cover that plot. But again, would it do a better job than the games do?
I don't wanna
at
watch-
conveying how bonkers that story is.
Yeah, like seeing a guy do the stuff Solid Snake does. I've seen it 100 million times. I don't care.
Right.
Like doing it in a video game
It's like
is really
the
interesting.
broad
and strange, but
the broad stories that video games tell have arguably already been told better in different movies.
yeah, no, and I was trying to think of like, fuck, what's a recent video game example that would make a good movie, and I was thinking of Prey.
new one?
arcane game, yeah, from a
Okay.
couple months ago. Like, I think it's a really interesting game. I really enjoy it. Solid 7 out of 10. That one, like, the story is there's 100,000 sci-fi movies that are already that. Event Horizon is almost that. Like,
Right. Like
It's also Event Horizon's also almost Doom.
yeah, for real.
I haven't played the new Prey, but I know about the glue gun that you use for a bunch of stuff in that game, which seems to be one of the big hooks. That and like the I forgot what they're called, but the little aliens that look like coffee cups and
Yeah,
stuff.
the mimics.
But it's like that's not a movie. That's like a single scene in a movie.
Yeah.
Where he uses the glue gun to do a thing.
And then there'd be one goon in the audience who would clap when
But
they
in
saw it
a
happen.
game, those ideas can carry a huge part of a game.
Oh, yeah.
Because you give people those mechanics in different environments, in different situations, and you have to think on your feet, and it's way more engaging to someone playing a game than a plot point in a movie.
Definitely.
And I think that's where a lot of these ideas fail, that they take the surface level without the core of it, which Prey would be, I don't know, you're exploring a space station, there's crazy stuff. I don't know, I haven't played it, but I'm sure there's more going on beneath the surface of it.
Yeah.
As a game, let alone as a story.
So, for the sake of an answer, I'm going to say Adventure Island. Shirtless boy, running real fast, jumping on
Starring The
skateboard,
Rock!
breaking
Love
eggs.
it.
Yeah!
Yes!
Dwayne The Rock Johnson!
Put him in everything.
I would watch that.
I guess I would too.
Put the Rock in the Chrono Trigger. in.
My favorite scene is when he's riding a skateboard and then he hits a rock. he just totally fucks himself up
It was weird that they kept doing it throughout the film.
every time.
Yeah.
And he when he breaks open an egg and it's just full of hatchets. It's like, wow.
Well, that sounds great.
All right.
We feeling good about these video game movies?
I'm
feel
excited.
great about him.
I'm excited for Rampage, starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, coming out 4/20.
I was something I was thinking about that I wanted to mention in this was that like one of the wildest things I've ever seen in a video game movie is the lowest rated movie on that list. That,
Alone in the Dark,
Alone in the Dark.
1% on Rotten
Forgot
Tomatoes.
that became a movie.
Yeah, which is just it's one of Uwe Boll's just like crazy run of films where that movie has literally nothing to do with the game. They named Christian Slater's character after the lead character from the Alone in the Dark games, but it has literally nothing to do with the games. It's just wild.
I mean,
He's like his movies, just simple-minded.
oh damn!
And fuck, I didn't look at what does House of the Dead have on that list, which is another
it's
little
great.
film.
It's real
House
good.
of the Dead made $13 million.
Hey.
4%
Whoa!
on Rotten Tomatoes.
No, and the
Looking
House of the
better.
Dead movie fascinates me because it's a totally generic zombie movie, just like the games are totally generic zombie stories. But there's a beat at the end of that movie where that film could not have less to do with the game. But then right at the end, they have a couple of like special agents walk up and like they're like explaining who they are and they say their names and it's the names of the protagonists from House of the Dead 1 and 2.
Okay.
And
it's a
just like-
prequel.
yeah, and it's like, oh, it turns out it's a canon prequel to the games, and nobody gives a fuck.
Right. Yeah.
That's like another one of those things where just like they're trying really hard to like balance like being for a general audience, but then like the hardcore fans of House of the Dead are really gonna love this. That person doesn't exist.
Yeah. You have an audience of 0.
Yeah.
There are actually 2 movies on this list I want to talk about real quick.
Dungeon Siege. Is it Dungeon
It's
Siege?
not Dungeon Siege.
Go
In the
see
name
Dungeon
of the
Siege.
King.
In the name of the King, Dungeon Siege.
Also has 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. No, I want to talk about the Silent Hill movie and the Warcraft movie real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Because those are both movies that I actually enjoyed the movies, and I have very little experience with the games that they're based off of. The Silent Hill movie I have not seen since it came out, so I might take to it differently. But at the time, I was like, I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
I thought there was some fun stuff in there, and I think they very clearly took a bunch of ideas from the games and just sort of cobbled together a new story.
Yeah.
So if I played the games, maybe I'd be like, oh, this isn't Silent Hill. But for what it was, it just felt like a horror movie with a lot of interesting little gimmicks to it.
Oh yeah, totally. And like, you know, there's like problems with it where like the Silent Hill games are really psychological. And
Yeah,
like the film is just like, here's Pyramid Head.
Yeah, he's
Pyramid
gonna
Head
rip
was
off
like-
all your skin.
Yeah, Pyramid Head was like a weird phallic metaphor in Silent Hill 2. But
Right,
In
that's-
this game, he's just a big scary guy.
That's my understanding about the
Movie.
games, is that every monster is a physical manifestation of someone's fears and thoughts.
Yeah.
And that was not at all in the movie.
and yeah, he does rip a woman's skin off.
he
which
does
is
rip a
pretty
woman's skin
unpleasant.
off.
And like slaps it at a wall.
It was pretty upsetting. Yeah. But I did enjoy
You
that
ring it
movie.
up like a towel and start hitting all the others in the locker room.
That shit hurts. That shit hurts.
Hey, knock it off.
And I did not enjoy that movie. Ironically, I legitimately was like, I enjoyed this movie.
It's a pretty decent horror movie.
It didn't blow my mind or anything, but I was like, that as someone who doesn't watch a lot of horror movies, I was like, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And Warcraft, I played a bit of the old like 2D ones.
Yeah.
And I played like several hours of WoW, and that's it. And to me, Warcraft, you were talking about how these movies are made without any respect for the source material more often than not. I think Warcraft was legitimately made by fans. And I say that because as someone who was not very familiar with Warcraft, it was really hard to understand what was happening. Because they drop you into that world and they do not explain anything. You don't have a surrogate audience character to be like, what's this thing? What's that? What's these things? Which that's why you have Frodo in Lord of the Rings. That's why you have Harry Potter in Harry Potter. You have outsiders going to crazy places to then be your eyes and ask the questions you want to ask. Warcraft doesn't have that. Everyone's like, yep, this is normal. And all their names are really crazy and kind of sound similar. So for the first half of the movie, I was like just trying to play catch up and just trying to understand what I was looking at. The second half of the movie, I really enjoyed. I was like, now we got giant armies fighting each other. The stakes are clear and understandable. And I really enjoyed it to the extent that I would watch a sequel if there was one. And I think it was made by fans because there's so much goddamn detail that has no bearing on the plot. It's just dropped there for people who are fans of WoW.
Yeah, didn't you tell me that like there's an entire establishing scene?
It's the
from
beginning
which,
of the
like,
movie.
Nothing is used.
The first shot of the movie is this giant establishing shot of where the dwarves live, and it's this giant city carved out of the side of a mountain, and it has this text in the corner that says like it's like Iron Forge or something. And there's a scene there where like the main guy, he's given a gun from a dwarf, and he's like, we invented guns, and then like he shoots a gun later. It is almost no bearing on the rest of the plot, and they never go back to that location. And I'm like that, and I saw that movie at the Blizzard employee premiere. So I was surrounded by people, a lot of whom probably worked on WoW, and they were losing their minds. And it was the best possible experience to watch that movie in. So that probably colored my opinion of it somewhat. But I talked to people who didn't see it at that premiere and just saw it on their own, and they're like, yeah, like that's a place from WoW. And you're like, yay, that was from the game I recognize. And then as a movie, it makes no sense to be there whatsoever.
Yeah, no, and I know I've read.
But to me,
interviews.
that's why I know it was made by fans.
Yeah, Duncan Jones said
Yes.
in interviews that he's played tons of WoW. Like,
And I
it's
think
his
that comes
thing.
across in the movie.
And I wonder, like, they had to focus test this movie with people who had never played the game, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm sure that, like, yeah, people who worked on the movie, people who worked on the game, I'm sure they were psyched to see Iron Forge or whatever the fuck.
But it did feel like this is what would happen if they were making like that Metal Gear Solid movie and they just made it a direct adaptation of the games and put it out as a movie. The way I felt towards most of the Warcraft movie is how the general audience would feel towards most of these video game movies. They'd be like, I don't know what's happening. People are cheering at random shit that shows up. I'm so confused.
Right.
I don't understand the rules of this world. Everything is backwards. So I think it's a really tough line. I think it's harder than a comic book movie adaptation. I think it's harder than a lot of novel adaptations. Obviously, novels run the gamut in terms of adaptability. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen the Charlie Kaufman movie adaptation, highly recommend it.
I really love that.
It's basically a movie about adapting a book into a movie.
And going insane.
It goes places. So it's hard no matter what you're doing, but I think video games are especially hard for a lot of the reasons we talked about, that it's just the source material is so weird, and audiences don't understand the rules of video games, and yeah, I don't know. But so I enjoyed Silent Hill and Warcraft. Those are the only two movies that I've seen on this list that I'm like, yep, I enjoyed those.
Dungeon Siege.
And not ironically, unironically, I
It's got
enjoyed
Ray
those
Liotta,
movies.
Ron Perlman, Jason Statham.
And the Super Mario movie has John Leguizamo. He's a great actor.
Oh yeah, and I've heard interviews with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. Bob Hoskins, R.I.P.
Where what's his name? He played Bowser in that movie.
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis
R.I.P.
Hopper, yeah.
Where definitely Hoskins and Leguizamo are on record as saying it's like the biggest regret of their career, with no irony.
Whoa. John Leguizamo, who plays Violator in the film Spawn.
But he gave a great performance. He was a clown monster.
Perfect clown monster.
Is he also the Hulk?
What?
Wait, what?
Wait, what who am I fucking thinking?
Yeah,
I don't know.
John
Leguizamo.
Leguizamo. John Leguizamo and Ang Lee's Hulk.
Hulk was Edward Norton.
No.
Eric
I think
Bana.
You're talking about
Eric
early
Bana.
Hulk, right?
I'm talking about early Hulk.
That was what's his
the
name?
TV show from forever ago?
Yeah.
Lou Ferrigno?
Yeah, Lou.
Fuck yeah. This whole podcast is me confusing people and like things.
Yeah. Anyone listening to this is going to need to keep a IMDb tab open.
Sorry, guys.
What's your favorite moment we're asking you, the audience, what is your favorite moment out of the Lou Ferrigno Hulk series? Please comment that below. Thank you very much.
As it exists as a cultural reference, you're going to get a lot of him walking down the street with the sad piano music.
Like what Family Guy did.
Can't use that one.
I know
You can't use
literally
that one.
nothing else about that show. So
And the random screen grabs I've seen of him just like walking outside in the day, and it just looks so wrong.
yeah.
He plays he makes cameos in all the Hulk movies, so
Does he?
yeah, as like a bodyguard and
Good thing they're still making
not a
Hulk
bodyguard,
movies.
but like a parking lot attendant.
Yeah.
You see the guy who looks up from his coffee and is like, "That's weird," and then goes back to his life.
You're like,
Did you guys see the original Ang Lee Hulk, where there's a scene where he just fights
Nick Nolte?
he just fights a bunch of big dogs.
yeah, he fights a giant
good.
poodle, a pit bull.
Yeah.
and something
No, and
else.
then in the end, it turns out that all the
Yeah.
animals were a metaphor, and the lifeboat was full of people.
No.
What? Really scary.
That's probably Nick Nolte's best film, but you know.
Well, I got nothing else to say.
I'm good. I think I'm good.
I think I'm good too.
Jory?
Cool.
Go see Resident Evil: The Final Chapter.
Soon to be known as the penultimate chapter.
I know. I'm so excited to see how they're gonna do it.
Yeah, how are they going to reboot that franchise?
Definitely.
There's so much plot that they have to carry over.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them.
They're
Has there ever been like a novel adaptation of the first Resident Evil game? Because that would be so good.
there has to have been, and I'm sure
Like,
it's
look out, Jill.
Yeah.
He said, sweat forming on his brow,
20 pages of her solving like a sliding tile puzzle.
putting a jewel from one room into a statue in another room.
Right.
A click resounded through the empty chamber.
It would be 2 hours until she figured out what it was.
The giant snake looked at her menacingly.
Sorry, you can't put a bookmark in this page. You don't have enough typewriter reels.
Where can we find everyone, guys? Where can we find them?
Barry, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter as Razadoop,
ZZOO.
ZZOO. That's how you spell it. And I'm on Instagram as Barry Kramer Twitter. That's true.
That's legit.
Because
That's
all my other
Instagram.
names were taken, so. Yeah, what's up, Ryan?
Oh.
I do stuff with GameGrumps, which is
Yeah.
that's what this is. Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Good job. Mm-hmm. I'm Ryan. You can find me over at Super Mega, which is Matt and I's YouTube channel, where we do
Yeah, it is.
a bunch of different content, mainly games because that's the bulk of what we do, but we're getting more into live action stuff hopefully in the near future. But you can also find me at the tag Eli Ryan McGee on Instagram and Twitter. Matthew?
Ryan said on Super Mega, we do a podcast every week, kind of like this one a little bit. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Matt H. Watson with 2 T's, H. Watson.
You can find me on Twitter at Tyler J. Hutchison, HUTCHISON, and on Instagram as Awful Tyler. Or you could check out some comics I make.
That's a great name.
That's a great name.
You could check out some comics I make at tylersaurus.com.
Tylersaurus, like a dinosaur?
Like a dinosaur.
Cool.
Like a dinosaur.
I'm on Twitter at Jory Griffiths. I tweet 4 times
Spell
a
it
year.
for us, Jory.
It's JORYGRIFFIS. No TH in there.
Griffiths.
Yeah.
Hi, Griffiths.
Wow.
Like Peter Griffiths?
Just like Peter Griffiths himself. Yeah, the family guy.
Griffiths.
And go check out Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator.
Oh yeah, go
Now available on Steam.
Yeah, these guys.
go buy Dream Daddy. Or just check it out. Sorry, don't buy it. I mean, no, do buy it, but oh no.
We weren't here for cross promotion.
What have you done?
Oh no. If you like it, buy it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hey,
We'll,
thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
What a great ending.
Thanks.